Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill, can you give me your response to the president's remarks today in the wake of the shootings this weekend and what you think the government's response should be?
Sure. The government's response has to be to get good gun safety legislation passed. As you know, the House has been hard at work since January doing just that. In fact, the first piece of legislation that I co-sponsored was H.R. 8, which provides universal background checks for gun purchases. We've passed legislation to close the boyfriend loophole, the Charleston loophole, and yet each of these pieces of legislation just kind of come to a brick wall when they're sent over to the Senate. Mitch McConnell has got to get these bills on the floor. We have to get a vote on them so we can keep them moving to the president.
So you served in the military. The kinds of weapons that we've seen used over the weekend, what in your view needs to be done about those?
I talked a lot about this throughout my campaign. These are weapons of war. These aren't weapons that should be found on the streets or purchased at your local gun store. Assault weapons and the bullets in them are meant to shred the human body. And the horror of some of these mass shootings is found in the emergency rooms afterwards from the doctors who find it really hard to save a lot of people because of the damage done to their organs. We've got to get these weapons off the streets.
Did you find anything promising in the president's remarks that might show any compromise going forward?
Well, the president did say he wants to see gun safety legislation. He wanted to see that tied with other things, but I think we just need to immediately get the gun safety legislation passed. So I can't harp on universal background checks enough. We have a great bill, H.R. 8. It had carve-outs for personal protection and for hunters. It has the approval of over 90% of the American people. So the fact that we are having these constant mass shootings, the fact that we've had a crisis in some of our inner cities of gun violence, and yet the Senate fails to address this month after month, year after year, and now day after day, hour after hour from these mass shootings is just unconscionable. Mitch McConnell has got to take up these bills.